If you're tired of feeling stuck because you're distracted scrolling social media or binging TV shows and movies without accomplishing the work that you need to do, this video is for you. Today, I'm talking about dopamine detoxing. Not throwing any shade, but a lot of people treat these dopamine detox challenges like antibiotics, like take this pill and reset your brain in 24 hours. You'll be reborn, a new person. Well, I'm afraid it doesn't work like that. A dopamine detox isn't about challenge, it's about change. Recently, I completed a detox, and I realized if I went straight back to scrolling and procrastinating, then what was it all for? Anyone can challenge themselves not to use their phone for a week, but that's completely missing the point. To regain control, it has to be done with intention. Most people don't see results from dopamine detox because they don't have a proper protocol. And that's why I created this video to share my protocol that's helped me experience real growth, improve my focus, and gave me mental clarity. It's 3 steps, and you must do each in order to have a successful dopamine detox. So part 1 is preparation, planning out the rules and structure around it, so we're clear on what we want to achieve. The first is purpose. As a doctor, my most successful patients are the ones who understand the extent of their health concerns. They realize what will happen if they don't change their behavior. Feeling stuck, experiencing pain, and visualizing what that future looks like. Not being healthy to see their kids grow up. Taking 5 pills a day and feeling miserable each morning. That's the mental picture that sparks a desire for change, and that's why they succeed. So honestly ask yourself, why is it important for you to regain focus? What is going to happen if you don't get your life together? This protocol has the potential to change your life, but just because it can doesn't mean it will. Not until you decide and internalize why it's necessary for you to change. Number 2 is cutting. Everyone has a different opinion about what to include in a detox. I'm not here to argue over semantics, but if you want to use my protocol that's gotten me real results, there are 4 non-negotiable categories that you have to cut out. First is binge tech. This includes social media, TV subscriptions, video games, forums, and political news. These things need to be physically deleted from your phone and blocked on your browser if possible. I don't care how much discipline or willpower you think you have, because our brains are conditioned, programmed even, to consume instant gratification. It's not even always about having a craving or motivation, it's just habitual. Even just glancing at your phone lock screen notification is all it takes for 30 minutes to disappear from your life. And yes, this also means blocking YouTube if you can. I know, a YouTuber telling you to stop watching YouTube? Weird, right? But if you need to use YouTube for work and creation, like I do, I get it. But at least do yourself a favor and use a browser extension that blocks your YouTube homepage and your sidebar to prevent getting sucked into the void. Number 2 is unhealthy sex. This includes pornography, masturbation, and yes, dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. There are many problems that can arise from watching pornography, especially in young men who are the majority consumers here. Now, you have to understand that sex is something that drives people to do very irrational things. It's absolutely crazy, but the science shows us that even the pursuit of sex releases huge spikes of dopamine, sometimes even more than the act of sex itself. So even swiping on Tinder and Bumble feeds our brain dopamine. I had a friend in college who was so dominated by sex, he once had a paper and final exam the next day, but he decided to throw away an entire semester and fail his class, all because a Tinder date wanted to meet up. Imagine your life being controlled by a total stranger's text message through a dating app, not even a confirmed real human being. Remember, this part of the protocol is to help us take back control. Next are consumables. No alcohol, no recreational drugs, including marijuana, and no junk food. We are what we put into our bodies, and in order to give our mind and brain the opportunity to reset, we can't keep altering it and feeding it dopamine substances. Substances are one of the easiest ways to escape from emotions and from reality because they feel really good. It's way easier to kick back with the girls, the boys, pound brewskis, and hang out till 4 a.m. than it is to sit down and focus on studying or building a business or whatever your goals are. Our mind will always crave the things that give us quick pleasure, so this is why it's really important that during this entire protocol, our mind is unaltered. And remember, this isn't forever. Trust me, I love a glass of wine or a cocktail as much as anyone else, but you have to stay dry for the duration of the detox. And number 4 is thrill-seeking behaviors. No gambling, no shopping sprees, no skydiving or bungee jumping. All of these activities release massive surges of dopamine because of a psychological tendency called variable rewards. You know what I'm saying? Keep them on their toes. That's a dopamine playground. If we aren't sure if the reward we're going to get is going to be good or bad, but there's a sliver of possibility that it's going to be a banger, then it's the most addictive type of activity. It's weird. Studies have shown that when we know exactly what the reward is going to be, it's less exciting, and we're less likely to do it consistently. But when the rewards are uncertain, it's an all-you-can-eat dopamine buffet, but we keep coming back for more. Maybe I'll get lucky in my next hand. Maybe I'll find a way better deal on page 10 of Amazon. If we aren't 100% certain we'll get rewarded, our craving for it gets amplified. This concept, of course, also applies to social media, dating apps, and all the other stuff we're cutting out too. In part 3 of preparation is how long to dopamine detox for. At this time, I'm not aware of any clinical research specifically looking at dopamine levels after this type of detox, so my protocol is based on our understanding of human physiology. We want to spend at least 7 days in full detox mode. There's so much instant gratification delivered to us that our brain is in a constant state of overstimulation. And as you've probably experienced yourself, the more you consume, the less you actually enjoy it. And this is because our body has a biological detective mechanism to overstimulation.
It's called desensitization. Normally, stimulation causes our cells to release dopamine, which binds to receptors on these neighboring cells so that they can function. But with overstimulation, there's too much dopamine hanging around, and our brain can't handle it. And to compensate, these cells decrease the outbound function, and they also decrease the number of receptors. Dr. K over at Healthy Gamer had an amazing analogy to describe how this works. He said overstimulation is like turning up the volume on your phone to max when it's plugged into a speaker. The input is so high and the sound is so loud that we have to compensate by turning down the volume of the speaker. We have to reduce the level of the input before we can balance out the volume of the speaker, otherwise we'd blow out the speaker. This process, desensitization, takes time. What we're doing is allowing the dopamine receptors in our brain to return to a state of balance, or what we call homeostasis. So give your brain at least 7 full days to reset. You can always go longer if you want. There's no upper limit to the length of time you can reduce stimulation. But personally, I don't think it's necessary to go longer than 30 days, and I'll explain why later. But for now, let's move on. Part 2 of the protocol is execution. We've set up the logistics of the mindset, the rules, and the time frame. Now it's time to begin. As you begin a dopamine detox, you are guaranteed to experience some emotions. You'll feel anxious about being disconnected from the internet or losing your Snapchat or Be Real stream. You'll feel uncomfortable with long silences as you're forced to make conversation with your friends instead of watching Netflix. You'll feel lonely with your thoughts and silence. You'll feel frustrated eating breakfast without your iPad or taking a dump with a book instead of scrolling TikTok. But of all of these emotions, there is one you will definitely experience, and you cannot try to escape. What do we do when we feel the least bit bored? We reach for our phone. We start scrolling. It's an instinct. Our mind is trying everything it can to escape feeling bored. But what we're going to do instead is tolerate it. Think of boredom as the state of mind where there's still a lot of dopamine hanging around, but the receptors haven't rebalanced yet. Eventually, our mind is going to be so bored that doing anything will be better. But you don't just have to sit around all day and do nothing, although that's definitely an option. Don't forget that we also release dopamine for a lot of things that we do.
It's often gradual and less intense than the stuff that we're cutting out, but we need to jog our brain's memory, figuratively speaking, that it also gets dopamine from pursuing goals, spending time with cool people, learning, and a whole bunch of other stuff. With the execution phase, we're reconditioning our brain toward healthy dopamine alternatives, so we get a steadier release of dopamine and we can actually enjoy doing the things that we used to do. So to put this in action, we will do 3 practices every single day. Yes, you heard me right, every single day, no exceptions. Number 1 is self-reflection. This is the most important part of the execution phase, because in order to experience positive change, we have to first become aware of it. It doesn't have to be a deep trauma dump exploring your deepest, darkest secrets. All the protocol requires is 10 minutes of self-reflection by meditating, journaling, gratitude practice, or whichever one you prefer. There's really cool data to suggest that even 10 minutes of meditation can calm our mind, improve our mood, and give us long-term focus. Most people live every waking moment in constant distraction. The moment we wake up, we grab our phone, scroll TikTok, listen to music in commutes, watch Netflix while eating. We would watch TV and scroll at the same time. The point I'm trying to make is that our mind is so consumed with instant gratification that we never make time to think about ourselves. No wonder we're stuck and not making progress and becoming better humans. It's because we don't sit down and reflect. But we're different at Cage and Koi Academy, right? Self-reflection is the building block of self-improvement and the vehicle for self-discovery. Can you devote just 10 minutes a day to change your life? The people who say they don't have time to self-reflect are the ones who need to self-reflect the most. Number 2 is exercise. It doesn't have to be a full-on workout. It can be as simple as a 30-minute walk to the neighborhood or park. It can be yoga or stretching, a bike ride or rock climbing, whatever fits your vibe. Move your body. Exercise increases blood flow throughout our body, and yes, it also causes a healthy and steady release of dopamine. That's why you feel so damn good after a workout, and partly why people experience runner's highs. Regular exercise improves our mood, increases our focus, reaction time, keeps our body running smoothly, and makes us look sexy. There are literally a billion other health benefits from regular exercise. I'm sure you don't need me to remind you. Number 3 is connect. Talk to another living, breathing human being. Believe it or not, having real conversations with other people releases dopamine and other neurochemicals. Again, this doesn't have to be a super elaborate thing. It can be a 5-minute phone call with your parents, a friend you've neglected lately, or maybe your older brother. But if you want to take the protocol to the next level, then tell them about why you're doing a dopamine detox, get them involved, and inspire them to take control of their life too. I've grown more as a person from an enthusiastic and passionate friend than anyone else. Maybe you'll be the spark for someone else's self-discovery. And that's all the protocol required. Once you end the detox, we reach the final part of the protocol, restoration. Restoration is the phase where we begin to reintroduce the things we cut out during our dopamine detox, but only after careful consideration. Sure, we can be extreme and say we're never going to use social media or video games or drink ever again, but personally, I don't think that's completely necessary. Think of it this way. If you have to go as far as to create an absolute rule never to use social media again, then who really has control over who you're? Being held hostage and restricting your opportunities for self-discovery. The goal of dopamine detox is to regain control of our mind, so it's not about permanently deleting all instant gratification or dopaminergic activities. It's about being intentional with the way that we consume. And this is why I don't think the detox needs to go beyond 30 days, because once we reach dopamine homeostasis, the restoration phase of this protocol will help us build the life that we want. For context, the idea of restoration came from Nassim Nicholas Taleb's concept of anti-fragility. After a catastrophic incident, we normally think of 2 outcomes, something being fragile or breaking apart, or being resilient, bouncing back. For example, if I 360 a roundhouse kick a tiny Shih Tzu, there's going to be critical damage. It's fragile. If I try the same thing to a mass elephant, there is going to be zero damage. It's resilient. But there's actually a third outcome he calls anti-fragile, becoming stronger after catastrophe. Taleb's opening example is the Hydra. Familiar with this from the Greek tale, Hercules or Avengers? But when one head is removed, 3 more take its place. As its heads are severed, the Hydra doesn't just bounce back, it becomes more and more powerful. Restoration makes us anti-fragile. We just spent 7 days cleaning the slate, hitting the reset button, and disrupting the status quo of our life. But instead of bouncing back to where we were before, being stuck, being unmotivated to pursue the dream life we desire without mental clarity and focus, why not become stronger? So before I decided to reintroduce things back into my life, I asked myself very important questions. What are the types of things that I value? What type of person do I want to be? And what does that person spend their time doing? Does this app, video game subscription, 6-pack of beer, or new pair of Yeezys align with my values and how I want to spend my time? Do they help me become the person that I want to be? If they don't, then leave them out of your life. To give a personal example, I did reintroduce Twitter and Instagram. Other self-improvers will disagree with me here, but I believe that some scrolling has value and it can be healthy as long as it's done sparingly and with intention. I really enjoy a specific subsection of self-improvement philosophy, Twitter, and so I really only ascribe there to get the ideas that I want and actually connect with other like-minded creators. Through restoration, I identified that very specific angle, and now I only use Twitter to engage in that community. Same with Instagram. I love branding and design and photography, art and music, so I also use it to engage and explore those areas of interest. And this is probably the most millennial thing I'll ever say, but none of my friends use TikTok or Be Real. We're too old for that, so all of our group chats are still on Instagram. But I also won't allow myself to get consumed, so I also very intentionally set a limit on my phone of 20 minutes a day for each app, and this has worked amazing for me. I get exactly the value I want out of these apps, and I get to leave the rest behind. So I really encourage you, get into the habit of putting that much intentional thought to the things you want to reintroduce into your life. If down the line you realize it's not serving the same purpose that it once was, then get rid of it again. This is how powerful you can become from restoration. You'll have the ability to pick and choose the best parts about technology, about video games, social media, and then leave the rest behind. We can regain control. Adding more doesn't always lead to more happiness, but it always leads to more distraction. And that's my full protocol for Dopamine Detox. Ever since I did it a couple months ago, it's helped me tremendously, and I'm going to keep using it every few months to hit a hard reset, especially when I'm starting to feel burnt out or that I notice that I'm not spending time the way that I want to. And I have to preface that, like all good things, this protocol won't instantly transform your life. Reframing our mindset and breaking down barriers and beliefs takes intentional practice and time, but that's why we have protocols in place. If you do decide to give the protocol a go, please let me know down in the comments below. How did it work for you? What didn't work for you? What realizations and intentions did you discover about yourself? This is going to be a great year ahead of us. We're going to do incredible things. We're going to become better humans and live more fulfilling lives. I hope you'll join us. Bye.